on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're having a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. It's Boxing Day right now at the time of recording, and I hope you had a great day yesterday. I certainly did. I'm still experiencing the after effects of that Christmas dinner. Yesterday I had it around 1 or 2 o'clock, and I just went straight into like a coma afterwards, in a good way. It wasn't in a good way. It was delicious, and I'm still feeling the effects of it today. I've indulged. I must say I have indulged. But I hope you've had a great Christmas. I hope you've had a great festive season so far. There's still plenty to go, of course. Today being Boxing Day, because there's still plenty of festive football fixtures to be played. Because with everything that's been going on recently, even in the world of Manchester United, but football, life, you kind of forget that there are some football matches to be played. Now it's Boxing Day right now. There are some games that have been called off, but there are still some games that are going ahead, and there are games that are going ahead tomorrow. One of which is Newcastle United versus Manchester United at St James's Park. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff. Now it was a bit of a controversy itself that it was moved. It was meant to be a Boxing Day fixture, and it was moved for television to the 27th, and a lot of people at the time were like, why? Television, money, is what it is. But I don't know about you, I'm just excited that there's a game on. I'm just excited that there is a Manchester United game on that I can get invested in, that I can watch, I can look forward to seeing my team play, so I'm very excited. It's United's first game since defeating Norwich a couple of weeks ago at Carrow Road 1-0, Cristiano Ronaldo's penalty. Now, obviously, since then, there's been so much going on with Manchester United in terms of positive tests, postponements, games being called off, the training ground being closed and opened up and then closed down again, all this kind of stuff. But there is some good news. There is some good news going on for Manchester United and Ralf Rangnick right now, in that we've gone from a position where we had, 9 first team players available, and I think it was like 11 or 9 or whatever it was, and that was just like a week or so ago, that we only had 11 players in total available due to self-isolating, positive tests, etc. Now we're on the complete reverse of that, because we've pretty much got a fully fit squad to select from, with the sole omission being Paul Pogba, who is still recovering from his injury he picked up on international duty with France. Now he is back in the UK, he's back in Manchester now, after spending, how many weeks was it? He was out there for a while, wasn't he, in Dubai, doing that warm weather training. And I enjoyed at the time, by the way, when Ralf Rangnick said that if I was the manager when that happened, Paul Pogba ain't going to Dubai. When my players are recovering from injury, I want them close. I want them close so we can monitor their recovery, we can speed up their recovery, we can just ensure that it's done properly. So the days of, I'm injured, I'm off, they ain't happening with Ralf Rangnick. But the only person missing, as I mentioned, is Paul Pogba right now. So that means that Ralf Rangnick has 25 outfield players ready to go. That's what he said at the press conference. So, as I mentioned, from I guess the scenes of chaos at Manchester United, we're in a bit of a positive space right now. Not that positive. We're in a good space. We're in a good space right now, because we've had a full week or so of training. We've got a full squad. And I think it's interesting for tomorrow's game, because you could argue, and I think it's a fair argument to make, that this is probably the closest that we will have seen of Ralf Rangnick's Manchester United. This is the closest image to what he wants Manchester United to be. Obviously, there's still things he wants to improve on. He still wants to bring in his own players, I'm sure. January is just days away now. So those rumours have already begun up and gone into overdrive, because it's Manchester United in a transfer window. But now, tomorrow's game is certainly the closest that we're going to see of Manchester United in his image. The first game he had against Crystal Palace, everyone said, just don't look into it, basically. It's too soon. And I guess the problem is we did look too much into it. And Ralf Rangnick said it. I was positively surprised. I was, pleasantly surprised by how well we actually played in the first 20 minutes or so in that game. I was shocked. We had 45 minutes on the training pitch. We had video analysis, conversations, but that was about it, so I was happy with it. Then the following game after that was the Young Boys game, when it was 11 changes. The kids were playing, so you can't read into that one at all. The Norwich game, which I think everyone was going into that one very optimistic, was a bit of a slap in the face of reality, maybe, for Rangnick and for us, the fans, going, okay, this is going to take time, and actually we need to not get ahead of ourselves. We can't get too carried away here. It's going to take time. We were poor in that game. We got away with it, Ronaldo penalty. There were certain injuries to the squad, etc., but it just wasn't a good enough performance. Now, You've got a considerable amount of time of training. Yes, there have been disruptions, obviously, because of COVID and shutting down and games being postponed. But this week in general, we've had, 7 days or so, like he said, of training, or a little bit before that. And I'm sure when they were closed down, people at home were still taking meetings, I'm sure, and still getting video analysis, and Ranić was still trying to get his message across. But on top of that, just having the training, you've also got the staff. Sasha Lentz is in now as the sports psychologist. Chris Armas has replaced Michael Carrick. Ewan Sharp has replaced Kieran McKenna. So Ralph Rangnick's got his guys. He's got some of his guys in there. Now, were they his first choices? I don't know. He said when he had his opening press conference that a lot of the people he would have wanted to bring with him to Manchester United aren't available right now. They're in contracts with other clubs and he couldn't really get to them. It's also difficult. How do you convince someone, hey, come in for 6 months, but in 6 months you might not have a job because someone else is going to come in to replace me and they're going to bring in all of their own staff. It's a tough sell. Even if it's Manchester United, certain people, and I had it with the guy that's the manager of New York Red Bulls at the moment, he was the former Barnsley manager, was like, why would I leave? I know it's Manchester United, but it's 6 months and I've got a job here. So it's tough. But the point I'm making is you've got a week of training. You've got your staff in that can maybe carry the message that you're trying to get across better to the players. So now, not that excuses are running out, but as I mentioned before, we're going to see hopefully the closest version tomorrow of Ralph Rangnick's image or vision of Manchester United. I mentioned Ewan Sharp there. He's the latest addition to the staff at Manchester United under Ralph Rangnick. Now, Ralph Rangnick worked with Sharp when he was the New York Red Bulls video analysis and assistant coach. Sharp actually did follow Rangnick to Lokomotiv Moscow in Russia, which of course is where Rangnick was previously. So he's a bit of a disciple of Ralph Rangnick. So we should be getting closer. As I mentioned, that's my point here. We should be getting closer. Now, again, will this change that we're hoping to see? Will it happen overnight? No. Ultimately, you've got years and years of bad habits that some of these players would have picked up. You've got years and years of playing a certain style or a certain way, or a lack of style or a lack of a certain way. It takes time. It takes time to implement a tactical philosophy. It takes time to implement, your vision, and that's ultimately. You can talk about all of these different issues that Ralph Rangnick has and all of these different problems he will have at Manchester United. The biggest issue that Ralph Rangnick has at Manchester United is that it's time. He has a very finite amount of it. It's 6 months. And every day it's just chipping away. And it's tough. It's pressure. And it won't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. And on top of that, it has been incredibly disruptive. But it depends how you look at it. I think, we're in that time of the year right now where you try and reflect on the year and you try and look at pros and cons. We tried to do it the other night, didn't we, with Defender of the Year? We look at pros and cons, make a pros and cons list. And with everything that's kind of happened over the course of the last 2 weeks, I guess you can also look at it like that as well. It depends how you look at it. You could say, this is the positive side of what's happened over the course of the last few weeks from a Manchester United perspective. You could say that United, despite the disruption, shutting training down, etc., it's given Rangnick time. It's given him time. Certainly this week, they got a good amount of training in with everyone in that squad. He's had time to get his ideas across. He's got staff now in place that can carry his message, his vision across to the players as well. The injuries that he had to some of the people in his squad, like Edinson Cavani, like Rafael Varane, they have recovered from them, so he's got a better squad available to him than when he first came in. They're positives. Now, on the flip side of things, you can also say, well, we haven't had a match in a couple of weeks. Rustiness, match fitness. You can try to get up to match fitness in training, but there's a completely different thing than being on the training pitch and the actual football pitch in an actual match Premier League environment. But we've also heard, I would say, when it comes to rustiness and match fitness, etc., we've also heard from various interviews now, whether it's Lindelof, whether it's David De Gea, whether it's anyone. We've heard of how intense these training sessions have been, and I think Ralph Rangnick realizes that, if he's asking these players, I want you to press from the front, I want you to be high intensity, I want it to be high energy performances. You have to condition the players to do that. Yes, these are elite level athletes, but it's one thing being an elite level athlete. It's another thing to be high intensity 90 minutes. It took Liverpool a lot of time as well. And I'm sure Ralph Rangnick will be saying to these players, look, you've got to up your fitness levels or you're just not going to be able to survive in this system. It depends on how much you commit to this system. So again, having an extra 2 weeks may be positive then for that to get these ideas across. But on the flip side, again, rustiness, and we don't know how people that have tested positive, what effects it can have on them. It can have lasting effects on fitness as well. So all of it depends. All of it depends. As I mentioned, Ralf Rangnick has said that his biggest opponent and enemy at United is time. It's time. Well, fortunately, he managed to get some. He managed to get some time. He did get some time to get his ideas across and get his staff in. So there may be an issue when it comes to rustiness, but certainly tomorrow, given everything that he was saying in that press conference, Ralf Rangnick, and he did seem, quite optimistic, to be honest with you. He did seem quite optimistic in that press conference that he did a couple of days ago. I expect a performance. I certainly expect a bigger performance than what we saw against Norwich. It was very disappointing against Norwich, but I do think we react. I do think we'll put in a better performance than that. But make no mistake, we are up against the side Newcastle. Same as Norwich. They're down there. They're fighting for their lives. They've got such a big couple of months coming up, don't they? I mean, obviously, they're the richest club in the world now. And they've got all of this money, but, and they will spend, 100% they will spend in January. It's just a case of can they convince players to join them that are the right fit for the fight that they're going to have for the remainder of the season. And I think they're playing better football right now. They've got a new manager, Eddie Howe. They've got a few dangerous players. Sam Maximan, I'd have him at United. Honestly, I would. I think he's a quality player. I think he's a real quality player. I think the difference, though, in our favour tomorrow, obviously we've got more quality and we have better players than they do. It's not even close, is it? But I think the difference between the Norwich game, in which we did struggle at parts through that game, and the Newcastle game tomorrow is that Eddie Howe isn't a very pragmatic manager. Certainly not in the sense of how Dean Smith is. Dean Smith will change his style, will tweak his style depending on the opponent, and he'll be like, right, how can I set up to get the best result out of this game? Eddie Howe isn't really like that. He has his style, he has his philosophy, and you have to credit him because he sticks to it. He sticks to his philosophy, he sticks to his style, he's got his principles of the way he wants his team to play, but the problem is he sticks to it regardless. Ultimately, it's what made him successful at Bournemouth, right? They played some unbelievable football, some really attractive, nice football. Yes, they had wealthy owners, but a small stadium, and most of the time he stuck with the same players that got him up from League One, let alone the Championship and the Premier League. He developed those players. He had a philosophy, a style of playing, an attractive style of football, and it did make him successful at Bournemouth, but ultimately it's what also led to his and Bournemouth's demise in the Premier League, because he just stuck to that philosophy. He stuck to that style of playing, especially in games where you just can't. You can't play that kind of open, progressive football in the Premier League when you're Bournemouth against Manchester City or against Liverpool or against those big clubs, because you'll just get ripped apart. You'll just get ripped apart. This refusal to adapt. And we saw that against City for Newcastle. When was that, last week? By the way, they absolutely should have had a penalty, and I think they're right to complain about the referees, because I think some of the refereeing decisions recently has been shocking, absolutely shocking, especially with VAR. But we saw the same thing. My point about Eddie Howe is that they play open. They just play open. They've got their style. I think Newcastle are playing better stuff and nicer stuff, but they're open. They're very open. They play out from the back, and you can tell they're not best suited to it or they're not comfortable. So that in itself will give us chances, because there'll be stray passes. They won't use a low block, which we struggled for against Norwich. We struggled against a low block, but a low block in which they pressed us. I think they'll try and press us, but they're not going to have a low block. They're not going to get 11 men behind the ball, because they just don't do that. If you've got a side that's playing out from the back but struggles to do it, and a team presses high like Ralf Rangnick wants Manchester United to do, it's their kryptonite. So I think it plays into our hands, and I think because of that, I think we will get chances. And let's be honest, again, no disrespect to Newcastle, but if we're going to get top four this season, and again, it frustrates me that that's like the aim, when at the beginning of the season there was so much optimism, certainly wasn't there. But if we're going to get top four, you got to beat Newcastle. You got to beat Newcastle away from home, especially in the position that they're in. So, and to be honest, I expect us to do so. I do. But in terms of a team prediction, it's interesting. As I mentioned, we're going to probably see Rangnick's strongest 11, or certainly the strongest 11 that he's put out at Manchester United whilst he's been there. Again, you can argue about Pogba, so maybe it's not the strongest 11. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you to decide in the comments section below. But certainly we could be looking at a situation where this is Rangnick's strongest Manchester United starting 11. So I think that will consist of David De Gea in goal. I think Dalot stays at right back. There's no reason to take him out right now. And it's not a Wan-Bissaka hating thing. It's just, I just don't know. I just don't know how he fits. I don't know how he fits in Ralph Rangnick's system. And I think Dallow's got the shirt at the moment. And I think it's fair that he's got the shirt. So I think it's De Gea, Dallow. I think Varane will return. It looks likely that Varane's going to return. Again, he's been training on the grass for a couple of weeks now. As Rangnick mentioned, all of those 25 he spoke about are in contention to start. So if Raphael Varane's fit to start, he starts. So I think Varane starts. It becomes a case of who partners him. Ultimately, I would prefer that you had Varane and Lindelof or Bailly. I think my preferred pairing would actually be Varane and probably Bailly. I think there's so much pace there, and I think with that high line that Ralph Rangnick plays in the 4-2-2, you have to have a high line, which means you have to have pacey centre-backs. So Varane and Bailly, that works. But that's not what's going to be played tomorrow. It's going to be Varane and Maguire most likely. And again, I know I say this a lot, it's political. It's political. £8 million player, captain of the club. You know, it's, and I guess with everything that's going on, it's an issue for another day. It's an issue for another day. So Varane, Maguire, I think Telles will continue to start. Again, I think that one's more up for grabs though. The reason Shaw wasn't starting previously was because of the concussions. I'm assuming he's over that now, but again, with the same with Dallow, Telles has really given no reason or no performances to suggest that he should be dropped. I think Telles has played well. He's had his best games in the United shirt, and he's dangerous on set pieces. I think he'll start. The 2 6s, it's Fred and McTominay. And again, Fred's been playing very well recently. McTominay's been fine. But also as well, it's just a case of who else would go there? Who else would go there in that role, in the way that Ralph Rangnick wants those 6s to play? It's got to be them. That's why we're looking at Haidara. That's why we're looking at whoever it may be in January, because we need more legs in that position, because we only really have 2 players at the club that can effectively do that 6 role in the way that Rangnick wants. Donny can't do that 6 role in the way that he wants. Donny can play as a 6. A deep line playmaker as a 6, but he can't play as a ball-winning midfielder as a 6. And I think that's the problem. So I think Fred and McTominay as the 2 6s. The 2 wide 10s, if you will, I think will be Sancho and Bruno. Was a bit disappointed to see Sancho get substituted so early against Norwich. I thought he played well. I thought Bruno played terribly. But I think they'll both start. I think the really exciting thing, though, here is that the 2 strikers, I think, will be Cristiano Ronaldo. And I hope, and I think so, I think it'll be Edison Cavani. And that's really exciting. Now, Cavani, there's a lot of speculation about his future. Barcelona, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? I hope he stays to the end of the season, but ultimately I hope he stays fit. I think if he stays fit, he stays. And I've spoken ad nauseum here on the channel about how often I've wanted to see Ronaldo and Cavani play together. We saw them play together from the start against Spurs when we won 3-0 when Spurs were awful. But we saw that link up there. We've seen it a couple of times where Cavani came on as a sub and they can link up. But I think in this formation, my goodness, 2 strikers, one being a heavy pressing striker, like a pressing forward like Cavani, it makes too much sense, doesn't it? It makes too much sense. So I think Ronaldo and Cavani start tomorrow, and I'm excited to see that. I'm very excited to see that. So that's what I think the starting lineup is going to be. Prediction, I think United win. I'm going to go with 2-0. I hope that we get another clean sheet. I think that's really important as well. Again, if we go from a point of having, how many clean sheets was it before Rangnick came in? 2? 1, I think it was like 2. Rangnick's first game against Palace at Old Trafford. That was United's first clean sheet at Old Trafford since like April or something like that, and that's early December. It's crazy. So if we could get another clean sheet tomorrow, that would be 3 clean sheets in a row in the league, and that would mean something. That would really mean something. So I'm gonna go with 2-0. I hope to see a dominating performance, and I don't know if we will. Again, is that too early to hope? I don't know, but certainly just a more complete performance. We've still been kind of playing in moments a little bit with this new system, this new philosophy, with the high intensity and press that we've been doing. Again, for instance, like against Palace, we've dropped off a lot, but that's to be expected because we're not used to keeping up that sort of intensity for such a long period of time. So I hope that we drop off later on in the game. I hope that it's a more complete performance. And I hope we don't drop off after 10, 50 minutes. And I hope we just play better than we did against Norwich. I think if we still played that bad, we'd probably get away with it against Newcastle. But there's only a few teams in the Premier League you can get away with playing that badly against. So that's what I'm going to go with. But look, guys, let me know your predictions in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Tomorrow, of course, it's match day, so we'll have a full match day experience, including the road trip, match view. We're going to do the full view after the game as well, which is really exciting as well, plus all of the fan views. So now is the time to subscribe, because football's back. What an exciting time to be a Manchester United fan. I'll speak with you again very, very soon. Peace.